All right, welcome to the Sharp Mind Show, episode 49. I'm Nate, the Fit Future MD, your host. Be sure to shop at intersil.com, pick you up a cool inspirational t-shirt today. Like this video, comment down below, let me know what you think about it, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'd really appreciate it. All right, so first things first, McDonald's employee and shoots man in the neck after complaints about wait times in the drive-thru. It was just a McMess, right? 21-year-old Yoan Soto working an overnight shift in Davenport, Florida, when two late night customers became upset about their wait times in the drive-thru line, right? And so apparently, I guess you can come in at the late night time and, apparently ended up with threats to the employee, and the employee shot the guy, right? Shot the customer. So apparently the manager told this employee to say, we're not taking orders right now. We're too backed up. Give it a second, because they were too busy. Well, when I worked at McDonald's, there was no way. It didn't matter if you were too busy or not. You still had to take the order, right? So that didn't make any sense to me, number one. But is it really become, that wild out there that someone would have to be shot over how long it's taken for your food to come out at McDonald's, right? Like, that's just nuts, number one. But I found this story to be interesting because obviously I used to work at McDonald's, and I felt that it was, obviously the location of the McDonald's that I worked at was not the safest location. But we never had an issue where you were waiting on food, period, right? So this goes to show that, people aren't liking the automation. You only having two people back there working, and a robot taking your order, not a robot, but like a little kiosk taking your order. That stuff is not, it's going to cause problems, right? If you get too many orders in the kiosk, you're going to, with two people working, like, you're going to have an issue, right? So keep that in mind. Hopefully at least the chicken nuggets were warm, by the time they came out. So that's the worst, is when you wait and it's still cold, right? So keep that in mind. This episode is brought to you by London and the Goo Goo, which is my wife's children's book. Be sure to check out London and the Goo Goo on Amazon if you have nieces, nephews, or children of your own. We would really appreciate it. All right. So, next big story of the day is the No Kings protest spreads across the nation, right? Now, many of you that know me already know that I think protesting is a waste of time. And the reason I think it's a waste of time is because even if you get 1 million people to show up to your protest, that's 1/300th of the population, right? There's 300 plus million people in the United States. So if you get 1 million of them to show up, that's only 1/300th of the population. It's not even enough of it to even dent anything, right? But I do want to talk about what the No Kings protest is basically talking about. It's talking about opposing authoritarian tendencies in the Donald Trump administration. Now, the precedent that Donald Trump is using came about during the Obama administration after the second term, after the midterm elections in the Obama administration, right? Because basically what happens is a new party comes into power. That that party gets certain things passed, and then the people that don't like what got passed get upset, and then you switch up the senators, right? So you end up with uh, a Democrat president and a Republican Senate and House majority, right? So then you basically then the next 2 years can't do anything. So basically, what ends up happening is it basically gives more power to the president, and the president ends up doing everything by executive order, right? And so basically, what they've realized is that you know an abnormal amount of judiciary seats came up in the Supreme Court during Trump's first term, and so the Supreme Court has had its liberal justices replaced with conservative justices, and therefore they believe that there's no real checks and balance between what the president wants and what's actually legal in the Constitution, right? So, but you got to keep in mind that these judges are supposed to be impartial. Obviously, it's hard to be impartial as a human, but they're supposed to be impartial and just supposed to uphold what the Constitution says, right? So, unless you change the Constitution through an amendment, you're basically supposed to uphold what the Constitution says, right? But obviously, people are human and mistakes are made, stuff like that, right? But that's basically what the protest is about. Is that basically Donald Trump is using the precedent that Obama took to make executive orders to do everything instead of going through Congress, right? And you know, so you have unilateral tariff stuff, right? So he's just making a policy on tariffs using executive orders. Obviously, taking executive orders to increase ICE raids and stuff like that. And the biggest thing with the ICE raids is that the people aren't having what's it, the right of habeas corpus or something like that. I can't remember exactly. They're not having their due process rights, right? So but basically the Trump administration saying that if you're not an American citizen, then you don't have those due process rights. So I can see both sides here, but what I personally don't like about ICE is that they can show up unmarked in unmarked vehicles, banging somebody's door and just rip them out of the house, right? Like, I don't feel like that's okay, right? So I feel like any kind of police officer should have to identify themselves as such, right? Because we're just gonna, like, if they did that to my house, we're all gonna end up dead, right? Like, because I'm not gonna know who they were. I'm gonna assume they're an intruder and just start shooting, right? Like, but I digress on that. But basically, those are the points of the No Kings protests, right? And basically, like, opposing authoritarian stuff that's precedent from former presidents, right? So, let me know what you think. Is the Trump administration's power increased too much, or is it basically the same as the precedent seen before under other presidents? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. All right. All right. So now we're going to move on to life coaching. Okay. And of course, we're going to go with the question here for life coaching. Of course, we're talking about money. If your money mirrored your priorities, what would change first? Right. So basically this is saying what you actually care about is where you spend your money, right? Um, like you can see it in money, what you basically care about. Like if you see people, most of their money is going to a health store, the gym, that kind of thing, then that they care about their health, right? Or if it's going towards their children, they care about their children, that kind of thing. So can you actually see basically what you say you care about versus what you actually care about and what you're spending, right? So and say when I look at this for my budget, you know, I like going out to eat, right? And honestly, the food going out to eat has gotten worse and worse and worse over the years. I just recently made homemade chicken tenders for the first time in a long time, probably since college. And now I don't even want to go to Bojangles and get their Supremes, right? Because the quality, the Supreme used to be like the top notch quality of a chicken tender, and I can make it better at home now, right? Now, and because the service, just like we were talking about with McDonald's earlier, the service is so slow at Bojangles that you're really not getting it any faster, right? You're still waiting 15, 20 minutes for the chicken tenders. So you might as well spend 15, 20 minutes and make good chicken tenders, right? But basically, if you saw my budget for all these years, you would basically say, well, food is your priority. Like you're spending all your money on food, going out to eat, right? And so when you actually mirror it to what you're supposed to have, what your priorities are supposed to be, then that'll completely change, right? So that's kind of the point of this question, is trying to figure out what is your actual real priority. Well, if your real priority is to become financially free, then all your money is going to be going to financial freedom, right? If you're really going, if your priority is really to be a healthy person, then your money will be going to your health, right? So whether that be chiropractor, massage, light therapy, whatever, it would be going, your money would be going towards your health if your priority is your health. So look at your budget today, right? Look at what you spent last month. Where's most of the money you spent, right? Besides your house, your electric bill, and your water bill, and maybe your trash and all that kind of stuff. Besides those bills, where is your money going, right? Figure out where it's going, and you'll figure out what your actual real priority is versus the one you say is your priority, right? So keep that in mind. Obviously, we're going to financial freedom. We're going to pay ourselves first, right? So, 15% of your money should be riding into that automatic, and invested for your future, right? And then so that leaves whatever you have left to pay your bills or whatever. So, and then your bills got to go down to whatever it needs to go down, right? So keep that in mind. Figure out what your real priority is versus what the actual priority you're actually doing, and see if you can switch it, right? So we've done that with food. We eat at home now more, and I can just make better food at home in general. So, all right. And so the last thing of the day is, of course, the quote of the day. And it says, the only thing that secures success is never giving up. The only thing that secures success is never giving up, right? So, like I say, I opened InserSale, and of course I purchased samples, because, I wanted to do leggings, I wanted to do shirts, I wanted to do all kinds of stuff, right? So of course, I get some samples from this company, and it's from China and it's supposed to be a 3X, right? And they're literally like an extra extra small, right? So you know, if I had taken that right there as like, and just quit, then Intercell would never be able to be successful, right? I say Intercell, is 9 years old now, right? I basically started Intercell in November, of 2016, and you know, basically trying to get everything done by Black Friday, right? And obviously that didn't work out when your samples didn't come back good, right? But um, so I started Intercell then. Intercell's 9 years old now, right? Like if I had just given up back then, Intercell would have never had a chance to be successful, right? So if you haven't checked out Intercell, go check out intercell.com. Pick you up a cool inspirational t-shirt today. But things are going to go wrong. Things are not going to go as planned. You're going to get started on something. Your plan is going to go completely out of the window. It's going to take longer than you think it's going to take. Everything takes longer than you think it's going to take. You miss the mark on things. You have to apologize to customers. But the secret to being successful is to never give up, right? No matter what, you wake up every day, you give it your best, and, you look to see what people want in the marketplace, right? So that's what I encourage you to do. If you have a dream out there, if you you want to be on the millionaire fast lane, make your product, get it out there, and make sure that people know about it, right? So I'm Nate, and I'm a life coach. If you're looking to set up your millionaire fast lane, if you're looking to reach towards financial freedom, then hit me up for life coaching. It's $2,000 for the year instead of $150 an hour like everybody else charges. And if in a year I don't make you better, then you get your money back. 100% money back guaranteed. If you do the things I ask you to do and you're not successful, then I'll give you your money back. All right, so make sure you shop at Intercell.com, pick up a cool inspirational t-shirt today. Use code FitFutureMD for 20% off. And check out my wife's book, London and the Googly Goo. Like this video, comment down below, tell me what you thought about it, and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you in the next. Peace.